refinance of the city hall lease, Chief?
Well, we actually met with the people, sorry, I didn't read the card, I can't remember what his name's Mr. Camp, but we do have the ability to look at refinancing the city hall lease that could save us about 2%, whether we wanted to do some other projects that could be some taxable, some non-taxable. Yes, his name's Bill Camp, and he's with Morgan Keegan. And we looked at that, but we sort of set him up to come, I believe it's in July, to brief us on it a little bit more, to look at what the options are to see that. But it looks like it would amount to some significant savings for the city by refinancing and reducing it from 4.15, I think it is, down to 2.07. So that would be a significant reduction in the value. And we have the same term, the same amount of years. It can be prepaid with no penalty, and these are all non-taxable. But if we do decide to put anything else in there that, say, maybe to do something for the development of the Wisteria property or the one portion of the Wisteria property, we could. But it would be taxable, but it would be paid off in the first 3 years, so that would be resolved. If we but we don't have to do that. That's just something that he brought up. That again would be some savings associated with it.
My only question on that, and I asked this before, is the Wisteria property is not really owned by the city, it's owned by the DDA at this
Correct.
point.
And the DDA would have to
They
participate.
would have to sell it back to the city, and then after the loan is.
Or the DDA could actually, I mean, if you were working on the Wisteria property issues, they could participate in the process of the bonds. I mean, it's not that they're excluded from doing that.
Well, I was in that meeting with the chief, and Bill was very encouraging about how we could do this, and it actually not extend any terms, really, there's some cost involved, but you can pick that cost up in, a certain number of months. I mean, it's a return on investment kind of a situation. So anytime we can do that, especially with a substantial piece of, debt that we've got, I mean, it's kind of like money in our pocket. So I was really encouraged by the meeting, and certainly encouraged Mr. Camp to go ahead and provide some detailed information regarding, inclusive of the Wisteria property, whether or not, we don't want to get hung up with anything. We don't want to, do something that's not good. And, by all accounts, if it works according to at least that plan, it would be a very substantial savings.
And provided some menu items so that we could look at it, whether we wanted to do 1, 2, or whatever.
Correct.
Options.
Exactly.
How soon can you set that meeting up?
I think we had set up to come in July.
I think we set him up for the first meeting in July, I believe is what we had. He was going to forward all the information to Mayor and Council as soon as he had it put together. So.
This is going to be a work session meeting, yes?
Let's start after this.
Do you need anything from council at this point in time? Any other
I
questions?
just want to make sure that it's not refi on this thing here. The market is not, I'm not so sure if it's volatile or not, but has there been any discussions about possibly not exceeding a certain percentage point? Because if we do wait and procrastinate, I think we may end up getting back into it.
Well, that's why we're looking at what we're doing, but I think what he said basically, we probably wouldn't even be as much as 0.4 of a point. But the sooner, if we waited even to July of 2013, but if we move ahead now, I mean, that shouldn't be a problem to lock it in at that rate. Our current one is 4.21, the new one estimated would be 2.07.
And it's a no-brainer. I mean, the rates are no-brainers. I mean,
The devil's in the closing process.
it is. You got to watch the lawyers and the finance guys.
Right,
And the points, the closing points.
And there's some cost to it,
Right, there are.
But it's the savings versus the cost.
I mean, you have to look at
You just need to see, you just need to look at the, what do they call it? The good faith estimate.
I've learned that you can draw lines through it. I'll put your history.
And we will.
All right, moving on, CUP 1203 Divine Touch Community Living Arrangement, that will be on our next agenda for first reading.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We've got about a half a dozen of these things
Mhm.
that we got in the license suite. And for it to be on your first reading, it would have already had to go to planning commission, and it hasn't gone to planning commission yet.
Okay,
So I don't think this should have been here.
okay. Well, so just to let us know, it may be coming up, and if someone could check and send us an email, just to let us know what the status is.
We'll do so.
Anybody have anything else on that?
Is he even scheduled for planning commission yet?
I think it has, but I'm not sure.
I think that's why it's on there. I think-
That may be why it's there.
Okay.
But it's going, if it's going to planning commission, it'll be the meeting this month, at the end of the month.
So then it may be on our July 9th.
Which is what
first
this
agenda.
really
Yeah.
means. at this
It
point.
could be, yeah.
But it would just be a first reading at that point in time.
Just be a
So
first reading.
If you could just verify that and send us an email.
I will do so.
Mobile stage graphics, Councilman Howard.
You know, when we acquired the stage, we forego, or whatever the correct word, forewent, the graphics package from the manufacturer in order to get it here and then be able to do some of the things we want to do to it rather than just an off-the-shelf kind of, you know, in the can kind of graphics package. So I'm gonna start exploring the options in addition to our city seal and the things that are on it now, just to, you know, bring that full circle and add some things. So that's really all that's about. So, I mean, designs and things like that certainly will come before council, and we'll just, you know, we want to use it as a showpiece, number one, when it's sitting out there. We want people to be inspired when they see it and see different things. So there's a lot of opportunities with some of the wraps and things there now that we can make it very attractive without making it, you know, something somebody doesn't want to see. So, it's a great billboard and we need to use it. So that's being a marketing guy, I'm all for that.
Okay, coffee with council.
As City Attorney Powell alluded to, Saturday mornings at the Snellville Farmers Market, we want to set up a tent, we want to have a sign that says coffee with council, and the idea is just for our citizen base to be able to have a place to come on Saturday morning, if they're not coming just for the market, but if they're there for the market, they can actually visit and talk with council, mayor. It's an open-ended invitation. If you can make it, make it. If you can't, you can't. It's not something that we're gonna lock ourselves into. The idea is to, when somebody comes in, if they want a cup of coffee, we'll give them a little medallion. They'll go to one of the two selected coffee vendors, that are the only two in the market. It'll give those people a chance to go visit some of the vendors on a one-on-one basis if they don't. So hopefully, I mean, that's the vision. So we want to start that this week. So.
To piggyback on that, I think this would be a perfect opportunity for members of council to discuss things like Code Red with the folks. Have literature there on Code Red, explain to people why they should sign up, how they sign up, maybe even have a laptop there and sign them up so that they, you know, we're spending, it doesn't matter whether we have 7,000 households or 1,000 households involved in Code Red, we're going to pay the same amount of money. So it seems to me it would be to our benefit to have 7,000 households signed up. So it gives us a chance to promote that, things like that, other things, just kind of like our Snellville Days Council.
It's just another venue for our citizenry to get to talk to us. That's simply all it is. It's one more on top of the next one and on top of the next one.
Mobile stage use policy, put this on here just to let everybody know. I've asked Mr. Powell to work on this. We need to establish a set policy about who can set it up, who can transport it, liability issues, who can use it, are we gonna have rental fees and things like that. So if you have any input or any comments on that, if you can give those to Mr. Powell, so he can come up with a policy to present to council, and then we can.
The big restriction is it has to be a nonprofit, that you only can lend it to nonprofit.
Lend it or rent it?
Yeah. Well, you can do either, depending on what you want to do.
What, do y'all have an idea about, how you ensure, you know, is it first come, first serve, or?
I think it would be application, date of application. But there's one thing though, this came up the other day when we were talking about Amy Copeland's weekend. For instance, the city of, in this case, the city of Grayson has fencing. It would be very beneficial to us for DMO events on the green. But by the same token, they could probably use are staged. So maybe there could be, you know, a worked out agreements. I think that needs to be in the contract somewhere, that we could have worked out agreements with cities that reciprocate the equipment they have to help us with our events, and in return, equipment we have helps them with their events.
Well,
If
and
we're
another,
gonna-
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
If we're gonna do that, we probably wanna, I know now it's been left in the town green, and talking with staff, instead of moving it back and forth, it's just easier to leave it there instead of picking it up and moving it. We probably wanna look at, if, you know, if the farmer's market's gonna use it every Saturday, we wanna look at the cost benefit of us actually renting it out. Is it gonna be profitable for us to actually move it and use staff time to rent it out to these places, or do we wanna
It
just?
certainly
leave
has to be to our advantage.
Um,
Well,
I think that's
Again-
part of your rental, part of the rental is transportation.
Yeah, exactly. And set up
Well-
and a indemnity clause if there's any damage to
So
it.
y'all anticipate at least administrative fees that go even with a nonprofit user?
Well, my
Yes.
comment was gonna be, the first thing we have to do is discover how much it costs to do what we're talking about doing. And I think that Public Works is the one to establish that. In other words, let's get a few rentals under our belt, not rentals, but let's get a few uses under our belt, figure out how long it's gonna take, assess time, transport, gas, fuel, cost, you know, so on, manpower costs, so on and so forth. I think we have to establish that first. Because if we don't know what, we don't know what to do over here. So for me, it would be, that's the first thing we need to do in order to even assess whether or not it's even financially feasible or not. So I think that's step one, and then step 2 and 3 can come beyond what we know here. And it very well may not just, it's a scale of economies. You know, people that do this for a living, that's all they do and that's all they do. So the scale of economy we may be way out of even reasonable. And that'll tell us. That piece of information will tell us really everything we need to know.
Our usage fee though needs to go also to the farmer's market and the stat, and we need to have some policy as far as internal organizations using it. If another group wants to use it on the town green, we need to have a policy as far as that, not just other cities and transporting costs. So.
Right. I think that we need to consider that under the same resolution or the same thing as we're talking about the resolution on the permits on the green. But I think if it's something that's benefiting, if it's an organization affiliated with the city that is to the benefit of the city, it should be one price. If it's someone who's using another HO1C3 that's using it, but it's not affiliated with the city, then that's completely a different price. You know, again, it's a city piece of equipment, is used for the benefit of the city and the citizens, and the people that are going to use it, to benefit the city and the citizens, should not be charged for the use, the same as someone that's doing it for their own purposes.
Would you do that in terms of priority to have an application for in-city affiliated use? It would take priority over other applications?
You know, yeah, I think you would have to do that, wouldn't you?
I mean, it's just giving emphasis to your own events is what it meant.
Right.
I go with the high bidder.
Well, what we've done so far, we had a recent
Well, we think of the
meeting.
citizens before we think of the money, right?
Oh, that's what you said a minute ago.
That's exactly what I said.
We had a meeting because we understood that all of a sudden the use of this thing is beginning to be a little more popular. So a planning meeting between Public Works and Kurt Gretchen, a number of us. So now we've got a forum, so farmer's market needs it for a weekend or whatever. So there's some internal workings that we've already started to try to have a path to make this
Those are all
happen.
policy questions that need to come in front of council. That's not something
Absolutely.
that group could have established.
Right, but it's just community.
It's just a working
Ours was,
document to get a feel for.
ours was more communication than it was policy per se. I mean, you know, where are we gonna store the keys over here when we dump it off, kind of thing. That's all that was. I mean, it was just a start. It really wasn't, you know, outside of our own family, we didn't do anything.
One of the other issues is the liability, even for the ones that we bring on board. Last Saturday, we had a bunch of folks playing music. Oh, it was wonderful. I love listening to them. I mean, for them to climb on and maybe if they fall or they break, you know, it's part of the liability issue. I think needs to be also very clear to the ones who use it, not just us, not just the city staff or the ones who pull it and push it and set it up, but then,
Would that come under the umbrella for the city? It's falling off the stage is no different than tripping on the green.
It probably would if it's a city affiliated event,
Right.
but if you lease it to another nonprofit.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah,
The only
that's-
way,
that's-
again, that's why I think
that's
they need
apples and
two sets of policy.
We can do an indemnity, but it's only as good as the wealth of the nonprofit, which I would
Right.
recommend. Usually it's co-insurance and the city additional insurance.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be any different if we were renting the stage, so, somebody fall off the rented stage as easy as they fall off this one.
All right, so if you could get us something, just a draft or something. Environmental health letter for the farmer's market, anything we need to do with that?
No, just knowledge of, it's a policy that we've done, and we're sticking the city manager's neck out. We want y'all to understand it's just a waiver that we achieve by the city authorizing the farmer's market as an exception to the inspection permitting process. The farmer's market does a great job of doing their own inspections to ensure there's not a problem.
Status of sidewalks and bike paths, chief.
Well, we're still pursuing the Safe Schools grants for the sidewalks along 78 and then down Scala. The first information we got back is that grant only can only be accrued to the benefit of middle and elementary schools. The first blush that the person said is that so it wouldn't qualify for the South Gwinnett, but you can't get to the bridge if you don't come in front of South Gwinnett, so there's an ancillary benefit associated. So we do intend to pursue that as much as we can, and it is in process, but that we just want to give you the briefing on that.
Is Captain Perry working on that grant?
Yes,
Thank you.
and Melissa and several people, I mean, we're working together.
LCI update.
Well, I think as council is aware, this week, Mr. Powell's office is going to file the condemnation with the courts. We've got utility certification and ADA competitive bid certifications, letters for you to sign tonight, now distributed in regard to GDOT. And as of now, it appears we're on track to obtain the certification and authorization of the construction funds by the end of the month. I've requested GDOT to advise us immediately if they see any problems. And tomorrow I've got an LCI sponsors meeting at ARC. So
What about, have we gotten answers?
We need to set up a meeting with ARC and
We have, when was it, we have our work session?
Monday.
Last Wednesday, okay? I'm gonna ask that we instruct the city manager to talk to the project manager about getting on top of this project. And I would have called Thursday morning, okay? And I would have had an answer for council tonight. This is dragged and dragged and dragged, and we've gone now over 2 weeks without an answer. I would like to have an answer by the end of business tomorrow.
All right, that concludes the work session. We have about a half an hour. Do I have a motion to go into exec session to discuss the appointment? This is during the work session, the mayor and council of Snellville, Georgia, may have council announce certain matters to be discussed in closed session meeting as council would like to see the effect of closing the meeting. Public appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, dismissal, or periodic evaluation of the public officer employed excluded pursuant to OCGA section 50-14-3B2 upon a motion of council member Sabah, seconded by council member Howard. The meeting is closed. The following council members and mayor present voting: Mayor Couch, yes. Councilman Manuel. Councilman Howard.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kraus.
Yes.
Councilman Sabah.
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Woods.
Yes.
That work session was closed. This is a personnel matter, so